Hey everybody, it's Robot here from Vespa Motorsport and ScooterWest.com. For all things Vespa, whether you got a vintage Vespa such as this SS180 or a modern Vespa, we got you covered. Check us out on the web. So today I'm going to do a quick review of the mid through late 60s Vespa Super Sport 180. So if you ask me my favorite scooter from the 60s, this is it right here. The Vespa SS180. It was only built from 1965 through 66. Of course, they sold them on to later years, 67, 68. Its predecessor to the GS160, they sold more of them and it was sold over a wider period of time. But the top dog of the mid 60s was this SS180. It only came in 3 different colors, white, blue, and red back in the 60s. Has the clamshell speedo in the very unique looking CM trapezoidal headlight. And as with any of the 60s scooters, has the nice pointy levers on it and the simple controls all on the right side and the basic grips that are in gray finish with the Piaggio logo on them. Moving on down to the glove box. What's unique about the SS180 glove box versus the GS glove box? The early GS had a round lock. This is the first scooter where they went to the rectangular lock on it. The reason it's got the glove box is because in the left-hand cowl, there is no storage. There's a spare tire. So this kind of started the whole tradition, or the GS 160 and the SS 180 started the whole idea of putting the spare tire underneath the left cowl. Moving on to the front, these were always, being the top of the line scooter, they were always trimmed out pretty nicely. Have a fender crest, they have the aluminum trim on it, and a kind of clean, simple look. This is the 60s here where things were starting to get squared off and a little edgier. They have the unique front end that's shared with the GS 160. The shock's a little bit rubbed out on it, but they also have a unique wheel arrangement where the wheel halves are a different width. They look much deeper, same with the hub design. Pretty much nearly every part of this front end is different than the prior model or the Rally 180, Rally 200, or the P200. It's actually closer to a P200 design front end. Moving on up to the badge, it's got the original plastic badge on it. There's reproductions, I can tell that's an original right there. As with any Vespa, the aluminum channels with the rubber strips. It's got the rubber floor mat in here, the exposed rear brake pedal. Underneath the seat, you have the basic spring seat that's found on most of these era Vespas. Any of the higher end models are always going to have a bench seat versus the tractor style seat. They had a tank that's kind of bumped up. Gives us a small boost in capacity. Also moves the tank a little higher so the fuel delivery is a little bit better for the gravity fuel delivery. Cap, you mix these a pre-mixed 5% because unlike the later Vespas and just standard run-of-the-mill Vespas from 1959 and later, like 150s, VBBs, VNAs, or even any of the small frames, they were a rotary valve design. These were a piston port design. Just that's how they handle the induction of the carbureted air and fuel mixture into the engine. I'm sure you can find plenty of videos on how a 2-stroke engine works. Both cowls are removable, as with Rally 200 or a P200, PX 125, any of those models. So the cowl lifts up, and there's the Super Sport engine. Very, very similar to the 160 GS, pretty much the same design, just the larger bore. And slightly different configurations with the porting and timing on the muffler. The carburetor is located underneath this air box right here. There's a air filter that's located inside this air box here. Got a Del Orto carburetor that's located underneath it. That's a very unique design, kind of difficult to get as an NOS or replacement part, as with many of the other engine parts on these. The tins around the cylinders, the engine cases are all unique to this model. Got standard points ignition. Top speed of the scooter, On a good day, they'll maybe kiss about 70 miles an hour, nearly as fast as the 200 models. This has got a reproduction taillight. This originally was a cast metal piece. If it was an American Super Sport, they actually had a round taillight that was mounted on a bracket. This is the correct style European taillight for this scooter. And on the left side, you do have the removable cowl as well. Houses a spare tire, and in some markets, also a battery. So the worldwide production for this scooter is rather low for Vespa, around 35,000 total units made in 65 and 1966. Typically these fetch pretty good money on the used or restored market. I say a good restored example that's a good daily driver, fetches anywhere from 2,500, maybe as high as 4,000 bucks. Fully restored examples can go as high as $8,000, sometimes even $10,000. And anything in between there. Obviously, if you're picking up basket cases, the piece one together for yourself, the prices vary greatly. You might find a $500 barn find, but typically if somebody knows what these are, they're gonna probably want a little bit more if it's a nice complete example. That's good for restoration. You get many of the parts pretty easily for this scooter, with the exception of maybe the engine parts. So keep that in mind. If it's missing a carburetor and the tins around the engine, those parts may be very difficult to get, because as of 2020, I don't think there's many reproduction parts. With the style of the scooter, you either love or hate it. It's definitely the 60s, kind of coming on to the 70s, adding much more edges to the Vespa design. Prior models such as VBBs, a GS 150, a GS 160, they had more round style Vespas. This is going on to where everything's getting a little edgier, as with the car design of the period. I like this kind of design. All the way up to 80s, I really like edgy kind of designs of vehicles in general. So this design is pretty good to, in my opinion, and I really like the unique headlight. Although a lot of people associate a Vespa with a round headlight, this is the first model where they went to large frame model with the unique trapezoid headlight. Also shared with the GL 150, which they sold far more of those because they were less costly. They had a lower test motor, but they were trimmed out nearly as much as these SS 180s. So it's kind of like, having a Cadillac with a 4-cylinder engine. Although nowadays the 4 cylinders can be a hot rod engine. I'll go over a couple other quick facts about this scooter. They always have this clamshell style speedometer. It goes to 80 miles an hour, or in other markets, I think it's 120 kilometers an hour. They have all 6-volt lights of any of the scooters of this period. 4-speed transmission with a manual clutch. In the front, you have the large aluminum Vespa SS badge, but if you move on to the back, it says Super Sport. Nowhere on the scooter does it tell you it's a 108cc model, but they do have nice clean lines. They use gray rubber strip for the cowls, and also on the grips and the horn rubber they typically had gray strip, as well as the glove box here. So there you have it, the Vespa SS 180, definitely on my top 10 list of favorite Vespas. Until next time, it's the Robot here from Vespa Motorsport and ScooterWest.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for everything covering rebuilds of Vespa engines, mainly the PX P200E, which is the most common model of vintage Vespa, kind of the last of them. They made them for the longest period of time. I have a couple other videos that do pertain to this era of scooter. Nothing unique as doing the engine, although it's very similar to rebuilding a P200 engine. This Robot here, until next time, ride safe.